Hello, welcome to episode 113 of your Noclip podcast. Danny O'Spanny here, delighted to be joined by the second most Irish named person here, Frank Howley.
Hey, how are you?
I think Howley's technically English, maybe. I'm not quite sure. But I know lots of Howleys. I went to school with lots of Howleys. Most of them farmers. You ever farmed?
I farm XP in World of Warcraft. I farm mats.
Undefeated Segway champion Frank Howley. Jeremy Jane, you ever been on a farm? You ever touched a cow?
I have touched a cow. We used to sneak onto my neighbor's property as kids in rural Massachusetts to pet his cows, which is like very illegal but pretty innocuous.
Did you ever go cow tipping?
No, that seemed fucked up to me.
I'm not sure that's a real thing. I grew up around a lot of cattle, just Irish people in general tend to, and I don't think that's a real thing. I was one of the meanest things I've ever done is that I once. Do you ever like flick matchsticks? Do you ever do that?
Where you like throw them?
So you'd have the matchstick box,
yeah,
and you'd put the matchstick. You'd hold the stick between the box and your finger with like one hand, so it was like pressed against the part that would ignite it,
yeah,
and you would flick it, so it would ignite and go through the air.
Yeah,
and I once did that into a cow's ear.
Oh,
yeah, which was not nice.
Atone for your sins. This is a safe place to confess.
Yeah, it's a private place for us all to. Might be the worst thing I've ever done. And I was in Scouts, and the Boy Scouts is in Ireland. I'm sure it was the same everywhere. It was just like a absolute circus of debauchery. So that was what I did. Best cow video game, Frank Howley.
I guess South Park has a cow launcher. It's the RPG.
It does. Oh, Postal 2 also had a diseased cow head.
There you go. Diablo 2, secret cow level.
Yep.
There you go. Oh, man, yeah, okay. I was expecting us all to struggle there, honestly. I didn't even have everything. Podcast at noclip.video. Send in your favorite cow video games. Shout out to our Battle Pass holders before we get started today. James Brown, Jason Drury, Cody Krieger, Sven Huster, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Cameron Ladd, George Dakotas, Jacob Godserve, and Toyer Tilia. If you'd like to be like those cool people, support Noclip and all of our random endeavors, because without you, we're nothing. Head over to patreon.com/Noclip. Thank you for funding all the work we've done so far this year. We're hard at work on a bunch of stuff, including Redacted, Vampire Survivors, and Dwarf Fortress and Choo Choo Jobs. We can talk about those. But we've other stuff that's redacted. And Wipeout. We're working hard over here. Making the work happen. Okay, let's talk about the video games we played this week. Or in myself and Jeremy's case, the documentaries we watched while we would usually be playing video games, or when we would. Jeremy Jane, let's talk about Double Fine PsychOdyssey. This is the shadow dropped 8 years in development, I want to say, documentary about the design, the development of Psychonauts 2. It is a 32-part, 22 or 21-hour odyssey, appropriately titled, series, basically, available to watch on YouTube now, made to the highest production quality, should be on a streaming service somewhere, probably. All about that game. It is the second one of these that has been made by Two Player Productions, who were, I guess, a production company that had worked on a bunch of docs in the past. Like they did one on Mojang, I think, or Minecraft. They did a couple of other ones. And then they were embedded, this is way before Noclip, they were embedded at Double Fine during the creation of Broken Age to make a documentary that was basically to be released alongside the sort of Kickstarter life of that game. It eventually came out publicly for everyone, not just the backers, after the fact. And I don't know, we should probably get some of these people on the podcast, maybe talk about it if they're interested. But I remember there was some weird like feedback loops happening with that series where there was like criticism of the game coming when they were putting the docs episodes out. So to my mind, that may be why this all just got dropped in one go. I'm not quite sure. But it is a Ken Burns like sort of project made to the highest degree, and I am only 4 episodes in, and it's like been 3 hours or 4 hours of my life. I'm not quite sure. Jeremy, I know you've watched a bunch of it already. What do you make of this? Was it too close to work to enjoy?
Yeah, no, that's usually the reason I wouldn't watch something. In fact, when it came out, I was like, oh, that'll be great for people who don't work on video games documentaries. But I started watching it just to kind of, you gotta scope out what other people are doing in the space, and I was just immediately hooked. It's so well put together, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I've pulled a bunch of footage from two-player production stuff in the past because we did a Tim Schafer video like last year. Time has no meaning. It was sometime in the recent past.
I think that was like maybe 2 years ago because that was like early COVID.
Okay.
That was back when I was filming in the CRT with the playback of the interview on it because I was like, we need to do something to make these not be... Because the quality was so bad back then before we learned how to do remote properly, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's funny because a bunch of the footage is stuff that I've seen, especially in the first episode, because there's a lot of retrospective about who Tim Schafer is and what his career looks like and kind of how he got from doing Lucas games to Double Fine. So it's bizarre because it's not only watching something that's very close to home because we make video games documentaries, but it's also a bunch of footage that I've used in video games documentaries in the past being used in a new context. So it's like if you were a chef and then you went to a restaurant and they had the same supplier as you or something, and you're like, oh, that's how you use tomatoes? Damn, that's like those are some good tomatoes. But yeah, it's really good, man. It's got this I kept trying to think of a way to describe it. It's almost like a timelessness or something to the, like, it never feels like their editing style or production style is going for this big kind of bombastic, like, content brained YouTube video style of documentary where it's like, the crazy stings and like the super crazy montage stuff. It just feels like they're very dedicated to telling this story in a way that's like heartful and meaningful and sincere, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It feels very sincere. But it's also just like so well put together. And it seems like I've only watched the first 1.5, so I'm psyched to watch the rest now.
Yeah, it's I was similar to you where I was kind of like, I don't know if I can commit to 21 hours here, folks. Like, there are video games that I struggle to do that on now these days. But I put one on and immediately watched the second one, and then the next night was kind of just wiped after a day of work and was just like, oh yeah, I'll check out another one of those. And then this morning I watched another one in bed, just something. So it's like I keep like being reminded of it and just kind of wanting to touch base with it again. Yeah, it's really fascinating because it's really difficult to watch this stuff and not like compare it or think about the work that we do. And so much of what we do is trying to emulate being embedded, you know what I mean? Like, even before the Hades stuff, even just like going to any place, there was this whole idea of like, we have come and we are here and now we are filming and we are collecting all the goods and we will leave and we will make something out of it. And the way you approach a project, I guess, in which not only do you know you can be there all the time, but you know that you are going to be filming for years and you need to like establish some easy to deploy practices, I guess, has been really interesting. But it's impossible to watch this without a producer's head on. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, this is really smart. First of all, they either have multiple camera ops a lot of the time, like 2 or 3. It looks like even for all the stand-up meetings, they have like definitely some cameras on sticks, some that are sort of like, at other thirds of the room, cutting across. But they've so much coverage. Like, Tim will say something, and then he'll reference someone's face, and they'll have somebody who is already on that corner of the room. And it's like fair play. But then they also have, they're smart about, so far anyway, it's only the first 4 episodes, but like they're smart about covering meetings where they know this is going to be important. Like the one I'm in at the moment is kind of, or the one I just watched, is a bunch of Psychonauts 1 devs coming in to do a real sort of brainstorm scrum type thing, and that's kind of a no-brainer to be like, oh yeah, we'll be in that room and record that. But they also have like great little moments around the studio. I will say, so far, the one area that I was like, oh, they're not doing much of this, and I totally get it, is sort of random moments in the studio that happen. The sort of like random, water cooler thing, or they have B-roll of it, a lot of those things that pop in, and they could have been filming days later or whatever. And I remember like when we did the Hades stuff, that was the hardest thing, was to get those moments that were like very in the moment and incorporate them into a story that was very B-roll and interview heavy, which this also has a lot of like Tim talking, but even there they have multiple cameras a lot of the time, like maybe one's on sticks wide and one isn't, but it's so well done. Like I'm interested in, like, I imagine that might change a lot maybe as well. Like I'm only 4 episodes in, it's very unfair to say like, oh, this is how they produced the thing up until that point, but it's great. Like you said, it creates this feeling of you just being part of the process.
Yeah.
Like, and I think what we've done in the past, and like you said, this might have something to do with, Noclip is a character in our stories, whether we like it or not, and we tried to not be that way for a long time. But there is this idea of us breaking through the membrane and being there, and things being a little bit raw because we're there. Whereas, because there's none of that, because all these people are really happy with they're seemingly comfortable with the camera, and because of the like very eloquent or elegant or smart way it's produced, it doesn't feel like you're an interloper. It feels like you're part of the meetings, and that's like amazing. Like, what an achievement for them to have done that.
That level of like that was something we talked a lot about for the Hades documentary is how embedding with a team is kind of like this longitudinal process where it's not only just about being there and gathering footage, but it's also about changing the nature of the relationship to a team. So the first shoot I ever did with the Supergiant team, like they're incredibly kind people and incredibly welcoming, but there's just a human level on which you have to be around people for a while to like to feel comfortable enough to just go up to somebody and kind of like silently film them working for 5 minutes, and then they like notice that you're lurking there. There's a very different feeling to that when it's the first time you've ever met them and you're like, are you Mark or Steven? What was your name? Versus if you've been there, it's your 10th time and they're like, oh, hey, come here, let me show you something. So that's like the benefit of the 2-player stuff, is this longitudinal nature of their relationship allows them to recede into the background like a wildlife photographer or something.
Yeah.
And it feels like so verite. And the other thing you mentioned was the difficulty of capturing water cooler conversations or whatever. I feel like that's such a difficult sort of production challenge, because I think when you're going into these shoots, you never know. I mean, it's funny because this reflects the themes of the doc itself, which is that you never know when you're making something great. You just kind of like, the nature of creative work is just doing the work, and then you revisit it and you're like, is this good or is this bad? And then how do we move forward from there? And so I think when you're doing a longitudinal embedded doc like this, you have to say, as a production team, like, are we going to try to get full coverage? Are we going to like follow people off for random conversations where they might just be talking about like, oh yeah, my kid just like started preschool or something, because once you do that, it opens up a whole can of worms of like, doubling the amount of footage you're getting and like potentially missing other things that are going on that may be more central to the story. So the magnitude of this doc is one of the most impressive things about it, the like granularity and intimacy of it, while also being able to like, I wonder how many terabytes of footage this series is a major question.
I've been interested in how at the start, and again, this is like early in the process, and like at the moment they're doing a lot of work on the Rhombus of Ruin, which was the VR game that came out, sort of bridge Psychonauts 1 and 2. So at the moment it's a lot about production, which is a very like human interaction story. So you get a lot of that. I'm interested in how technical it gets, or whether it gets that technical. I don't think that's a net positive or negative necessarily. I'm just like fascinated by that, especially given the length of the thing. But what it feels like is that especially at this stage, just feels like it's just kind of introducing you to everyone, and we're going to have all these arcs with everyone because it's such a long period of time. You know, it was, I don't want to spoil anything, but like one of the characters early on has already left, you know, and I knew this because it was somebody I knew, and I was like, oh, I wonder when that's going to happen. But you know, seeing the trailer and stuff and seeing like some of the rawness and those moments that come up, I think that's where this thing's going to really shine. And I haven't really seen those yet because I think, again, it's early in the process and it's about sort of building those foundations. But yeah, it's really like, I think the other thing that happens to us is because we're on these weird time frames, even with the embedded stuff, because it's costing us time and effort and production, you know, money, it costs, like all that sort of stuff, that even when we go to studios, there's an inclination to try and like make things happen a bit or to like get people to talk about something. As opposed to in this one, it's like they just go to the meeting that was already there, you know? And you can do that if you're there 7 days a week or 5 days a week. Maybe it gets to 7 days a week later. I'm not sure. I'm sure if there's any of that stuff going on, they'll definitely be there for it. And my understanding is, and I wish I knew more about, Two-Player Productions don't have a massive sort of online presence necessarily themselves as well. I think my understanding is that I don't know if they were acquired by Double Fine or if they were all just hired by Double Fine, but I know one of the folks, I think the DOP on the project is like a level designer at Double Fine now. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like, yeah. So I think I think those people were working on the game maybe as part of it. I know some of them come up in later episodes because I've seen some, like, I follow some on Twitter and I've seen some stuff. I'm trying not to spoil myself is the thing, so that's why I don't know. But I think that was what was going on, which I find really interesting because, you know, we tried really hard on the Hades one, and I'm trying really hard now on the Hyperlight one to try and get those moments and film those bits and bobs. But, you know, just by process of it being that way, like a lot of the really good moments that were filmed at Supergiant were done by JP.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because Jean-Paul was there, and Jean-Paul does a bunch of work at Supergiant, and he had a little camera, and he knew how to use it, and he was there to back us up because Jeremy obviously couldn't be, you know, we didn't have that much of a budget to send you fucking 5 days a week, a couple of days a month or something, was it? It was not even that, maybe at certain stages, especially during COVID. So it's like almost, that's why I was kind of like overjoyed and also slightly like depressed about the whole thing because I was like, this is what you'd make, like, and I'm also happy that someone made it because, you know, I wanted to do this because not enough people were making it, and one of the few people who were doing this work was Two-Player Productions, and they were a huge inspiration.
Yeah.
And I was, and part of me wonders, is that why it's this long? Because it's probably the last one they'll do, right? Like,
yeah.
At this stage.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what a way to go. I'm out. 21 I did my Ken Burns. I'm gone.
Yeah, just silently dropped 32 episodes of a doc series. Yeah, it's cool, man. It's like, it's such a different flavor of doc from the stuff we do too. And that's the thing is, like, you can't have, I mean, unless every studio hires a documentary crew to embed with them, which is obviously, you know, I mean, I am less interested in the budgetary side of any artistic endeavor, but this one in particular, I am curious, sort of like how Double Fine rationalizes the cost of it, how they see it as like feeding it back into their, you know, because I mean, it's like the doc series, the first episode has like 53,000 right now, and it just came out, and I imagine that number is going to go way, way, way up. But I'm curious, like, it seems more like a preservation thing to me than it does a marketing thing. And it's cool.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say it's cool that they see that as, like, you know, meaningful enough to spend a bunch of money getting, you know, people to just like document them all the time. It's obviously, it's not cheap to have people just standing there filming all the time. And like you said, you know, that the part of the process is like, we occasionally ask studios to film themselves just because we can't be there 24/7. But like the ideal version of the work is to have someone who's there constantly documenting all the things. But if we did that, we wouldn't be able to, you know, talk to all these different studios we talk to. And on some level, I think there's value in doing, you know, the scattershot approach where we do a little doc on a million different studios. But I think it's really cool to see this like incredibly deep dive.
Yeah, I'm totally, that's all. I totally agree. It's really interesting. Sorry, by the way, Frank, if this is getting a little bit too, some of this you can't add to because you're never on this side of the production, I guess. But I have a similar, you know, you don't like, because even the way they announced it was like they put a trailer up and then they link to an unlisted playlist, I think, or maybe now they're listed.
Yeah.
At the time they weren't, and I was like, oh, you can't even think about return on investment with this one, right? Because it's too long. And obviously since then, everyone's been acquired by Microsoft. So whether or not Two Player Productions is also now part of Microsoft, or maybe they just hired these people and the production is just kind of like not around anymore. Because even I think on the credits it says Two Player Productions was, and then says the names, which is really fascinating. But yeah, I'm with you on that. And you know, it's been part of the conversation we've had for the past few months, because we've been talking with our patrons for about 6 months now about setting up some sort of company that can do this type of work, but it's impossible for Noclip to self-fund that type of longitudinal. Like, god damn it, we're trying our best with like the Hades series, but like even at the Hades series, like you look at the Hades series, and maybe we could, I don't know. I always look at them and go, then, you know, how well did it do, or how many people watched it, or whatever. And you can go like, oh, maybe someone else would have gotten more numbers out of that, or maybe such and such and such. I'm super proud of what we did. It's probably the best thing we've ever worked on. I think as a team, it really solidified us. It was fucking hard because of all the COVID stuff. We had to figure all that stuff out. But like, I don't know how much we spent on the Hades series. Like, easily 6 figures.
Yeah.
Of like Noclip money coming in for all the time that was spent shooting, editing, like back and forth, like flying places to film, all that sort of stuff. Like, it costs a lot, and like those videos don't do, you know, like when we were, it's funny because like the Hyperlight Breaker episode 2 just went up, right?
Yeah.
And has done like 50,000 views. The first episode of Hades did about 50,000 views.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that game started to pick up, and now it has this like super you know, longer tail to it, and collectively the videos have done, I don't know, a few million anyway. But like, even that wasn't worth it. I don't like like if it was YouTube revenue, was that worth it? Like, I don't know. Was it Hades? They didn't spend anything on it. Like, granted, they're basically helping us make a Blu-ray of it, and they're paying for all that. So that's very, very kind of them. Maybe perhaps out of some sense of like wanting to like, holy shit, those guys really went hard onto this documentary they produced themselves, and like, you know, but I'm with you. I'm like, you know, we've talked like Noclip can't. There's no way we could like enter into a partnership. We've been asked for nonstop for 6 years about like, could we help make something? And it's like, well, it's not really preservation then, it's marketing, you know. And
Yeah.
that fucking line is already clearly blurry enough with our audience where I don't want to even make it look like we're doing that. But to do something longitudinal, or to do something that was like that level of access or that level of investment from the other party, which means that they are helping, they are giving us access to gameplay, B-roll, you know, all this stuff that like we don't get because people think they look at us and they say you're an outlet or you're a journalist, which is more accurate than the opposite. And, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but wouldn't it be fun? Like, wouldn't it be fun to be like properly embedded with like a big AAA company and have that level of freedom, which I think now we'd get anyway because we're owed it, or we've people know that we can tell their stories better than they can tell themselves anyway.
Yeah, that would be. I feel like that's the thing that would worry me about if we were trying to do what we do inside of a giant company. I think there would have to be a conversation about sort of like the sincerity of the work and avoiding doing, because like when we interview larger AAA companies, occasionally someone will say an answer that's very like eloquent but feels a little like rehearsed, and it feels like it's sort of echoing this company culture of like, and we're a place where like everyone feels the right to like stand up and have their voice heard. And it's like, okay, what you're saying is good.
Trim, delete.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, you know, we're interested in storytelling, and I think that there oftentimes those things, if that truly is like the culture of a company, I feel like those things come up in more interesting ways and more anecdotal ways. You know what I mean? It's not about like the slogan of what type of company culture you have. It's kind of about how people talk about the work that they do and about the relationship to those other people. I feel like that expresses those things better anyway. So yeah, it's this weird, interesting push-pull where it's like, I feel like the two-player production stuff remains so like viscerally sincere. It never feels like marketing to me, which is why I think it works.
And you know everyone's got their heart in the right place, or at least you hope it, right? Because like, you know, Tim Schafer seems like a pretty, you know, ethical guy, all things considered. Or if they're exposing as much as of themselves in this, then perhaps these people are, you know, I don't think you work at Double Fine if you want to earn a shitload of money in game dev. You know what I mean? Like, Although now they're owned by Microsoft, so who knows? but you know what I mean. You're not going down that route. And it's the similar thing with Supergiant, where like the ethos behind them allowing us the access they did came from Greg and his desire to do that from a journalistic standpoint. The same thing was the case with Heart Machine when we had all those meetings with Alex, and he wanted to just like expose more of how the sausage is made and how difficult everything is, and running a studio is difficult, which is why it's a bit more of a focus on that end than there was on the Supergiant one. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's like, you know, at what stage are you making propaganda? I mean, if they're paying for it, then maybe that's what it is. But, you know, also, is this propaganda? Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, there's an element of that. Of course, it is some part of marketing. People will, like, the thing that always happens to us is we meet people who watched one of our docs and they went and worked at one of these studios.
Yeah.
Like, that probably made it worthwhile for the studio already. It wasn't why we did it.
Yeah.
Wasn't the intention. And there are people in this documentary who work at Double Fine because they watched the first documentary series. So, like, it's the same thing that happens with us. So is it propaganda? You know what I mean? Like, so it's all case by case. But I'm with you, and like, I don't feel like I'm watching propaganda. This feels like very sincere, and you just know if somebody made fucking 21 hours of a documentary that's 32 parts. You know, if you're making propaganda, you probably could have gotten that into a tight 90. You know?
If you were like trying to obfuscate the reality and present another reality, you'd have to cut at least 20 hours of that. Probably.
Yeah, you'd probably,
you know what I mean?
Probably do less, not more.
Yeah,
you know, it might be hard to. Yeah, exactly.
The longer it runs, the more reality can leak through. You know,
that's true. That's true. Maybe that's a good point. Maybe that's where the sauce is. You just make so much that it couldn't possibly be. That's why trailers are so unbelievable, because they're so manufactured.
True.
It's wild stuff. Frank, have you any interest in watching this? You've been into One Piece, I know, and this is probably, you know, 5% of the length of One Piece, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it's relevant towards our work and everything. I watched the trailer like 10 minutes before we went live, knowing like once I saw it was on the doc today, I was like, oh shit, I didn't do my homework. I didn't know. But I watched the trailer, I was like, damn, that's good. I started playing Psychonauts 2 when it came out whenever it came out, and I really liked it. I never beat it. But I feel like in tandem with this, it's good motivation to get into it. I also just need to make more time in general to watch stuff on YouTube as a whole. But I feel like it'd be great to watch another prestige video game documentary. So I'm definitely interested. I also really like Tim Schafer. I think he's a really funny, cool dude.
Tim's
so, like,
awesome.
I want to see his raw, just like, what is his environment like? What is his studio like? So I think it'd be really cool.
His notes are crazy. So in the first episode, he's opening up one of his notepads. He has notepads going back. I mean, they cover this in the first series. Notepads going back like Monkey Island days. Like just all of his ideas, he writes in journals. And he's just like Frank. Frank loves to get his journals out. So he's like that, but he has like, so he can go back and go like, here's where you figured out some puzzle for Grim Fandango or something. Just like fucking B-roll wet dream.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's also, that's just so cool to me, because I feel like I alluded to this earlier with documentary production, but you never know when you're coming up with an idea that will totally shape an entire project or be like a defining feature of it. It just feels like being creative feels like being creative, and you know, sometimes it goes better than worse. But yeah, there's one moment in the first episode where he's like pulls out a notebook for Psychonauts 1 and is like, maybe it's at like a summer camp or something. Summer camp seems cool, and then he keeps reading ideas, and it's a bunch of stuff that ends up in the game just across 2 pages, and he's like, oh, I guess this was a good day. But it's crazy because it's like 2 pages of like a, you know, lined college ruled notebook or whatever, just like a normal day of just writing down ideas, and it's like that. Yeah. Those are such defining features of such a defining piece of media that it's cool. There's something very I think sometimes when we consume the work of people who we look at as like the greats or people who are very influential or creative or talented, we like distance their process from what we as like normal mortals do or something. And so I feel like that's part of the reason that I really like the work we do, and that's part of the reason that I'm really interested in this doc. Is I think it's like creativity it's like being a carpenter, you know what I mean? Like it's not there is something like beautiful and very like transcendent about making a piece of art that touches people emotionally or something, but the actual work of just making art, whether you're drawing or painting or like making documentaries or video games, it's just like sitting down and trying to make stuff, coming up with ideas and
process.
Stuff. Yeah, exactly. And so it's cool to like, just to ground that process and see that just, you know, Tim Schafer is like a brilliant dude, but he's also just a dude. He's just a normal guy who writes down ideas or something.
yeah, and who maybe has loses track of time or is hard to pin down
Yeah.
or doesn't, you know what I mean? Like all those sort of like personal foibles and traits that come into it. I do also wonder if Psychonauts is a particularly good game for this type of thing, because a lot of like games require a lot of work but maybe not as much imagination. Like if you were doing this on, let's say the Callisto Protocol or something, I'm just thinking of other Bay Area ones, you'd have to go in a different direction. It would be about technology and about rendering and a certain amount of enemy design and world design and stuff like that, but it would be so much darker, it'd be like gorier, it'd be harder to. There's something about the sort of whimsy and how everything in a game, especially a game like Psychonauts, which is like so it's they take place in these liminal spaces or whatever, you know what I mean, or these voids of imagination. It's not even like, Grim Fandango has a world that is kind of the world, whereas in Psychonauts you go into different people's minds and everything's different every single time. So there's so much fodder there, creativity fodder, which you wouldn't get in a lot of games. Like even in a game like Hades, like, which is like the most creative independent game I can think of in recent memory, but it has a grounding in like, it's this art style, it's 2D, it's isometric, it's about these gods, so you get it pared down sooner or something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's something to be said for the fact that Tim Schafer mentions that the reason he left Lucas to start Double Fine is because he wanted to do an interactive peyote sequence in Full Throttle, and they wouldn't let him. That's the greatest origin story for Double Fine. I love that so much.
Out of interest, though, because this is also an interesting part of it. Who here has like really played those games?
Full Throttle or Psychonauts? Or...
No, Psychonauts.
Oh, I have played the first quarter of Psychonauts 1. I really liked it. I think I played it when we were doing the Tim Schafer video,
right.
And I captured footage and was like, this is just awesome. And then had to go on and play like Stacking and Iron Brigade and a bunch of other stuff. So I just didn't finish it.
Frank?
Yeah, same thing. I played maybe the first 2 hours of Psychonauts 1, but I did it like in 2020. Like I missed the boat.
Oh, right, okay.
Same.
And then Psychonauts 2, I played it I feel like it was around PAX or whenever it dropped on Game Pass. And I played it for
got PAX on the brain.
Right.
It's off to PAX East soon.
For 4 hours, I played and I was like, damn, this is really good. And then it was like false. There were so many other games, but now I'm like, oh, I want to go back and play it because it's really fun. It's so creative and silly and legitimately funny, which is it's always very hard to be. I feel like to be legitimately funny in video games and everything that was good.
That's what I find interesting now, though, because I have also played back in the day. I played Psychonauts closer to release, not the year it came out, but like maybe 2 or 3 years later. I played like maybe half of it, and I've not played Psychonauts 2. And I think this is a common thing. I think the Psychonauts games have had this cult status, and a lot of people really want to like them as well, I think. But I struggle to find people who completed them. Like I don't know what it is about those games. Maybe it's that they change a lot. Maybe it's that they're puzzly and that people get lethargic about it after a while or something like that. Because it's interesting because I've seen people tweeting that Microsoft they canceled this game and it made money and all this. Psychonauts eventually made money, but Psychonauts made money as a cult classic a long time later. That's my understanding, is that it did not sell well at launch, and that comes across in the documentary when they talk about it. And I've been dying to play Psychonauts too. It's like the GoldenEye video we did this week. It's one of the ones that I am the most embarrassed and sad that I have not properly sat down and had the time or done it to play it. And now here I am probably going to watch 21 hour series about the whole thing, and I still won't have played it. So I do need to pull the finger out. Maybe it's a good deck game. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah, dude, I wish I played Psychonauts as a kid because I loved 3D platformers. Like, if I played this game around the time I was playing, Banjo-Kazooie and shit, I feel like this would have been my favorite game of all time. Yeah, it's a genre that I very rarely play. I mean, it's kind of a lesser-made genre these days anyway, so yeah. I think it's just... I just need to commit. I think the Steam Deck is a great idea, just having it cozied up in a corner like a book.
There's something about those games that is you know when you watch like TV because it's just like popcorn or McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's not. They're not that.
Yeah, it's
They
substantial.
Yes, they're more cerebral and thoughtful, like a Ken Burns series, right? Where like you feel like you need to be in the right state of mind to really appreciate it, and then sometimes that can be a barrier because sometimes, you're just too tired or you want to play something that's easy or.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like some of my favorite games are games that hit that sort of cerebral note, but they present as something other. They're like, I'm junk food, and then once you start eating, you're like, oh no, this is a steak dinner or something.
Right?
Because it's
Yeah.
I do psych myself out. Like I've done that with I played the beginning of Norco, and I was like, oh, this is a game I like need to give reverence to. Like I need to play this when I'm in the right headspace. And I feel like those are some of my favorite games. So sometimes it's hard to get my friends to play the games that I love the most because I'm like, oh, you have to play Disco Elysium. And they're like, I don't know, man. I'm not really in like the mood for the Dostoevsky of video games. And it's like, no, it's like a game about like digging through the trash and like making crass jokes. Like I don't know. I feel like some of the best games kind of hit both of those notes. And Psychonauts is one of those games that's like incredibly creative and cerebral, but it's also just like it's playful and childlike. And I mean, some of the best media ever. I used to be a really big fan of Adventure Time back when it was airing and like when the original short aired before it was a TV show and stuff. And one of the things that I really liked about it is that it was ostensibly for children. It's very juvenile in presentation and stuff. But some of the themes that they deal with are incredibly adult. And I mean, like a lot of people know this. It's like sometimes you'll see like an animated movie that's for kids, but then it's kind of this timeless all ages thing. Or like Over the Garden Wall is something I watched recently that kind of had that flavor to it. Psychonauts it feels like it's one of those things where it feels like timeless and ageless, and it's very hard to strike that balance. So I approach it like this weird relic of games where I'm like, I want to have my Psychonauts experience be like the right one.
Yeah, I think about like I'm 37 now, and I think about all of the movies that I still haven't watched, like Casablanca or something, because they have that reverence, and you end up, like you said, psyching yourself out. Or like Disco Elysium, I'll play a bunch of it and be like, that was great, and then I'll be like, yeah, but it's pretty, I need to make sure, sit down and
like the candles,
have a whiskey,
exactly.
or a nice big wax candle that can like drip down onto the table.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and in a way, this series is easier to digest. I feel, it's like you said, it's not high stakes yet. I haven't been stressed out by it. TV works the same way, or movies, right? It's like sometimes you're in the mood for a horror movie, sometimes you're in the mood for a comedy, and those are very different. Like, your brain state or what you're anticipating or whatever that is. And there's something about maybe it's the fact that a game that changes all the time, as opposed to say an open world game. Like Elden Ring, for instance, is a good example of, I'm really enjoying this area. There'll be a new area, but it'll play like this. So I'm excited to see it, and I'm not worried about what that's going to be. Whereas a game like Psychonauts is, I don't know what the next area is going to ask of me, or something like that, and it kind of creates a little bit of... And because games are supposed to be, or sometimes we go into it with this feeling of I should be placated, I want it to entertain me, then there's a conflict there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested. If you have any thoughts on this, please let us know. Put your comments in the YouTube comments. Hit us up, podcast at noclip.video. We don't read them out very often, but I do check them all the time. Mostly just people saying nice things or mean things sometimes.
We'll find you.
We'll find you.
And we'll beat you.
I will find you. And what does Liam Neeson say?
I've never seen Taken. I only know it through reference.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
was the one with the wolf? Was there one where
the Gray?
The Gray.
Yeah.
Is he fighting the wolves?
Yeah.
I think he does fight. Yeah, he tapes glass to his fists so he can punch them with broken glasses.
Fuck.
Yeah, which is actually pretty cool.
I mean, it's a bit mean, isn't it?
I mean, I feel like it's a him or them situation,
Situation.
Yeah. They got sharp teeth, so he's equalizing it.
Yeah, he's just putting teeth on his fists.
He's the equalizer.
So, yeah, that was the working title for the film, The Equalizer.
Did you ever see what was that one with Jason Statham where he has to like shock his heart?
Oh, Crank. Crank 1.
Those
Crank
movies
2.
are so good.
Yeah.
Jesus
I've only seen the
Christ.
first one, but it's hilarious.
They're very good.
Yeah, Crank 2 is good too. What happened? What's the deal with Crank 2? What's the hook on that one?
Crank 2, high
to
voltage,
keep his heart
electrified and pumped.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like because the first one he has to keep his BPM over a certain amount or his heart will explode or something.
Yeah.
And
And then the second one is like what?
they like replace his heart with a battery or something, so he has to constantly like jolt himself, and at some point it turns into like a mecha Godzilla fight. He has to zap his balls. It is awesome. It's so good.
He needs to go 30 miles an hour, or Dennis Hopper will make him explode.
That's
it was-
basically the idea, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like they've taken that, but they've just like made it even more.
They made him the bus.
The behind the scenes of Crank 2 is what solidified me going to film school, because the behind the scenes of Crank 2, honestly,
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
like fucking Citizen
That's
Kane or
awesome.
anything.
Crank
No.
2, because it was in high school when it came out, and in the behind the scenes of Crank 2, it shows them rollerblading with like 6 different cameras and throwing like handheld cameras off of buildings, and just like, oh, you can do crazy shit, and that's a real movie. Like, it blew my mind. Like yeah, those movies, like, they have like small cameras, and the cinematography and editing is just, it's like a skate video. It's so crazy and silly, and it was like awesome. And so yeah, it's like a Jackie Chan movie where the credit sequence is just all the stunt work, and it's like, damn, this is so cool. So I really recommend it.
Crank 2. There you go. Well, I'm gonna watch Crank 2 before I complete Psychonauts 2. Is what's
Yeah.
gonna happen now. It's bad times. I will play Psychonauts. I promise. I will properly play Psychonauts. This I'm going to complete the series, I think, because I've been really enjoying it. That is Double Fine PsychOdyssey. Frank, tell us a little bit about Metroid Prime. I've heard about this video game. It's a lady. You turn into a ball. You have to use a bad controller. What else about it?
Yeah, so Nintendo had a direct a week ago, and I feel like there wasn't anything remarkable in it. I mean, Zelda stuff, but we already know that's coming. But the coolest thing they kind of shadow dropped was Metroid Prime Remaster, and even better, it was $40, which is great, because so many remasters are now like $70 or full price. But this was $40, and Metroid Prime has always been one of my like biggest blind spots. Like, on Metacritic, it's one of the highest reviewed games of all time. There's a lot of games in the GameCube era I kind of missed, because by the time GameCube came out, I was like, this is kid stuff. I want to play PS2 and Xbox. Like, I was over Nintendo.
It was such a weird one because there was like 5 games that were amazing. There was like Resident Evil 4, this, Beautiful Joe,
Yep.
Ico. Was Ico? No, Ico was
PS2.
PlayStation. What am I thinking of?
Um,
Okami. Sorry.
yeah.
And what were the Capcom 4?
Oh,
There was
yeah,
like
the Capcom 5 is like...
fi-
Yeah, shoot. You already nailed one. Where it's like, yeah, Resident Evil 4, Beautiful Joe. There is PN03, another Shinji Mikami game.
Yes.
Yeah, so many random exceptional games. Yeah, so Metroid Prime,
Killer 7. That was the
Killer
other one.
7. Oh, that's
yeah.
yes. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Metroid Prime Remastered, I downloaded, was eager to play. A handful of things that are boosted by it is they've made the controls modern. Like, it actually controls like a first-person shooter with dual stick. I don't know how it worked before. I had tried playing it, like, I got it for Christmas when I was a kid, like 11 or 12, and just didn't have the patience, or I just didn't click with me. I tried emulating it like at some point during quarantine, like, you know what, let me give this a shot. The controls just didn't click with me. So finally, a third try, like, all right, let's sit down and play it. And finally it works. Like, it's really, really cool. And then also, I don't know if this was in the original, but there's a casual mode. So I think that just enables like way more health points. You don't have to worry about dying as much. I've only died once by falling into lava without the Vera suit.
I'll do it.
So it's really cool playing Metroid Prime. It's so funny starting to play it because all the music's hitting, and I'm like, oh, this is just like Smash Brothers, because I associate Metroid and Samus with Smash Brothers. Like, the only Metroid I've ever played was Super Metroid, which is excellent, but even that I didn't revisit till in my 20s. I had never clicked with any other Metroid games, even like Nintendo as a whole. There's a lot I just don't really mess with. But it feels really good. First-person shooter. You're exploring a space station or an alien planet. So even just the sci-fi aesthetic of it, like, there's monsters, there's cute like Nintendo, like, I almost said graphic design, like art style, like that. Everything designed back then for the GameCube, the graphically still holds up. Like, it's more, I don't know, I want to say like more cartoonish than like realistic, so it ages well, and they've remastered it. But the funniest thing is I'm jumping around this alien world, shooting aliens with my guns, is you use the map a lot in a Metroid game to see what rooms you haven't been yet. And as I'm exploring the map, I'm like, this is a lot like Doom 2016, or this is a lot like Doom Eternal. And then I had the moment I'm playing, like, this is like a Metroidvania, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is it. This is the original.
This is Metroid.
I know, right? It's like, what the hell? Like, so it's so funny playing like the original like 3D Metroidvania, because then it just made me think of like Yeah, Doom, Arkham Asylum, like all of these games where I feel like the core design was so inspired by Metroid Prime and probably other stuff, but like, whoa, so it's so crazy playing something that holds up well and it's so great and it feels like I'm so excited, and this is why I love when there are remasters or remakes, because like people who miss it the very first time, like even Dead Space, like our GoldenEye, like I can't get over how fun or exciting remakes or remasters are, but I
could probably do a few less of them, honestly. I think if some of those studios were doing some new stuff, that'd be cool too.
Yes.
But it is funny you mentioned the Metroid thing, because somebody in our System Shock video was like, it's amazing watching them talking about this without saying it's a Metroidvania, and I was like, I kind of found, is it a Metro? Like, okay, that was like my initial thing, respond to a commenter and be like, "What the fuck you?" I was like, no, let me think about that for a second, because that's it. Yeah, if you ever go to any of our videos, it's just me saying "fuck you" to everyone.
It's just every comment, even the good ones.
Yeah. But I was like, is it? I was like, that's a good point. Like, I never considered that like first person games would have been, and obviously, like I kind of thought about it, and I was System Shock 1. You're exploring a station. Obviously, games like Doom and Doom was all about being lost and getting keys and going places, which isn't necessarily the same thing as Metroidvania, which is like, it's not about keys, it's about abilities that sort of unlock stuff, right? It's kind of specifically that. And I kind of thought about where those games came from, and it brought me back to actually kind of like late 80 dungeon crawlers. Like the one I used to play on Amiga was Abandoned Places. There was loads on PC that were kind of like, or kind of Elder Scrolls Arena to a certain extent was kind of like the getting out of the dungeon version of that game, where you were walking through these places that were labyrinthian, figuring out where to go and like unlocking shortcuts and doing all those things. But I feel like Metroidvanias, I feel like the reason why, like, there's a reason why Metroid and Castlevania is in the name. It's because it didn't come from PC games, it came from this other thing. But it is interesting how Metroid Prime ends up being like a weird sort of like the center of the Venn diagram in that respect, and looks like something like Doom 2016,
Yep.
which is not a Metroidvania. But like, you're right, if you look at the two of them together, you're like, you're not that different from each other, actually.
Yeah, and like the levels have so much verticality and platforming, and like you can sidestep and double jump, and it's like, this is so crazy. So it's so funny. Like, and I also wonder too, like with this remaster, did they tighten the controls? Did it always play this great? Like I have no idea, and there's recency bias and all that stuff. But like,
It feels like a new game though.
Yeah, it really holds up, and it's super nice. Like, one thing that feels good is it doesn't feel bloated. Like, it feels pretty lean. Like, I was able to get through, like, I feel like the game does a really good job of, and I don't know if this is new, but there's maybe it's because I'm also on casual mode, but you'll get to an area, and if you're wandering a bit, it'll be like, hey, you need this ability, you don't have this yet. Oh, cool. So like, I don't have to waste my time, because that's something that prevents me from playing a lot of games, or like JRPGs, where it's like, I will be lost forever, and they'll have to go on GameFAQs or something. But the game does a good job of like, no, I think you have everything, you should go here, kind of pushing you along. It's like, great. Like, again, it's so funny because like, it's a Nintendo game. I imagine the audience for these are expected to be wide and very accessible, but I think there's a thing from, as a kid, I tried playing these games, and that fear only like scaled with me as I never like conquered it. So it feels nice to like break through on the other side with it. And even like dusting off my Switch, because I wanted to lie down in bed and play the Switch, and my Joy-Con things had this weird rubber like gunk on it. Like, if you don't play it, was like, what?
Used it for a while.
Yeah, it was like disgusting. And then I'm lying in bed playing the Switch. I'm like, this is like the Steam Deck. I was like, I just completely missed. I don't know, but so I'm having a good time with Metroid Prime, and then like. This is like video game rumor stuff, but a friend of mine in my Twitch chat, Polygon Line, was like, "Oh, I think is this the same engine that they're working on for Metroid Prime 4? Are they going to remaster 2 and 3 next and get everyone ready for Metroid Prime 4? Is it all the same team? Is this outsourced? I have no idea, but it's really cool. And yeah, I'm going to try to beat this game. I feel like no matter what, I want to beat this year, because like I've always avoided this, and then we'll see if 2 and 3 get remastered and ported, and then yeah, Metroid Prime 4 at some point, I guess.
I bet this is a rangefinder. I bet they'll see how much this sells and that. But like, also, this is not the first time they've done the rangefinder, and they've released Metroid. It's almost become a meme at this stage.
Yes.
When are they going to release?
Yes.
And they've done a couple of these over the years where they've come out with something new in the series, and then that's been it again.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think that the old story was always that this series sold more in the States than it did in Japan, so that there wasn't as much love in the Nintendo Japan for this series, despite how influential it was and how much people liked it over here. So who knows? But I wouldn't say it's a sure bet for sure. I don't know how popular the other Metroid Primes are in particular. Is there 2 other Metroid Prime games?
Yeah, so there's Metroid Prime 2, and I think Metroid Prime 3 is a Wii title. And again, I could be wrong, but
I don't remember Metroid Prime 3 at all.
Yeah, and then they put out, and it goes for a lot, but on the Wii there is a Metroid Prime trilogy collection, and I don't know if they like did it so every Metroid controls with the Wii and Wiimote stuff. I hate motion controls, so I never was interested in that.
I was gonna say, do you have to like go like this to make Samus turn into a ball?
It's so and that's what's funny too. Playing Metroid Prime is like I unlocked like the screw attack or some kind of ability, and you see the icon. It's like, oh my god, that's the item from Smash Brothers. Like it's so funny how just like
Frank is like eating cheese for the first time, and he's like, this reminds me a lot of cheeseburgers. It's like
it's such a funny feeling. Like it's like whenever I watched The Godfather for the first time when I was like 19, I'm like, oh my god, like there's the line, there's the thing. So it's
I have so many moments like that watching classic films because I feel like I don't know if this is just like a 90s animation thing or if other generations have experienced this, but I feel like so many kids cartoons when I was growing up would reference like Casablanca or like or like Vincent Price
I watched A Few Good Men a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and like that entire courtroom scene at the end is just like every line is in a Simpsons episode or something. It's like
it's wild how many classic movies I just know through references that I don't even know are references. Or like Orson Welles was referenced in Pinky and the Brain a bunch and shit. It's like it's so strange.
The French wines, champagnes,
They should have referenced that. That would have been a better reference.
They should. Oh my god, I love that shit. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes came out in 2004 on the GameCube and the Wii, and you were right, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption came out on the Wii in 2007. So it's been a hot minute, folks.
When did Republic Commando come out? Because whenever I see Metroid Prime, I think of they have like similarly intrusive UI.
I'm gonna guess 2004.
That's a good guess.
And it says 2005.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
cool.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's got the visor.
Yeah,
it's got the blood on the visor.
I've never played either of these games. I just whenever I see Metroid Prime, I think of Republic Commando.
They did remaster Republic Commando as well recently, right? We talked about it last year, Frank.
I think so. I played a little bit. It's actually pretty cool. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but it's funny. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but I do like sci-fi shooters. So okay.
Yeah, I'm same way. I've played more Star Wars games than I have watched the movie. All the Jedi Knight games and Dark Forces and Republic Commando is a good time.
And then there's the new one coming out, I think in April. The Souls-like Jedi something.
Yeah,
those games
played enough for that first one.
That first one, I liked it.
The first one was good, but I dropped off it again. I just God, the amount of games you don't complete is just depressing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you can't feel bad about it though. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I just look at it like as a kid, I used to run around arcades and, you wouldn't beat them, but it was just fun running around and trying so many different things. And I think that's why I have such an ease with picking up and playing different stuff without like having the shame or like, I don't know, I love video games so much that trying anything feels fun and exciting.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work. And Game Pass helps because you don't have to worry about the financial guilt of dropping on a game and not getting it.
Yeah.
Or getting codes. That's another way of getting around us. Although we don't get codes very much over here. We usually get codes for indie games, and then it's like, no, we'll buy it because we want to.
We want to support you. Don't send us this. We'll buy your game.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm trying to look at the list of other stuff here. The only thing I want to cross off my list here is Wario Land 4, because speaking of those bastarding YouTube commenters, we did the video on Pizza Tower. Yes, over on Noclip Crew, which Frank had played a bunch of and showed me the game. Go check that out over on Crew. And the comments were all like, oh my god, I can't believe these people didn't play Wario Land 4. And I was like, you can't believe I didn't play a fucking Game Boy Advance game? Like, I can't believe you didn't play fucking, I don't know, Republic Commando or some other equally...
Wiz and Liz.
Like, Wiz and Liz, exactly, yeah. Games that are not like... it's not like I didn't play fucking Sonic. Like, I didn't play Wario Land 4. Okay. So here's me getting defensive again. So then I looked at it and I was about to say, fuck you. And then I was like, wait a second. Let me think about this for a second. Wario Land 4. Wario Land 4. So I picked up my Analog Pocket, which I talked about here a couple of weeks ago, which I loaded with games that I definitely own. And I loaded up the Game Boy Advance little system that I had on that and scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the list, and there it was. So I was like, oh, I guess I own this game. I didn't realize. And I played a bunch of it, and Wario Land 4 is a good time. And Pizza Tower is absolutely Wario Land 4.
Yeah.
like it's not like 1-to-1. Like there's definitely like more speed and there's more Super Meat Boy in Pizza Tower and stuff, and Celeste, like you said, Frank, with the size of the levels and the speed of them and all that sort of stuff. But the whole like, you know, smashing through walls or like going and doing a thing and then having to get out, the shop having like the fact that every one of these zones is different, you know, has its own art style and all that sort of stuff. You know, crouching and turning into a ball to go under things, and how jumping works and all that. It's really, really similar to Wario Land 4. So thank you to all the YouTube commenters who gave me to play it. I played like 2 hours of that maybe over the weekend, just picking up my pocket and having a go. Frank, had you played those? Or Jeremy, had you played them?
Frank, you go first. I did, but
Cool.
The only thing I played, I remember at some point on the 3DS, if you bought one early, like Nintendo felt sorry for you and added you to the Nintendo Ambassador program or something. So there's all these free like 3DS games, and I think Wario Land 3 was a part of it, so I played it like once or twice. I never stuck with it. Like, it felt very weird to me, but I think I was also too young to appreciate how weird it is.
Yeah.
But
It is weird.
It is.
Yeah.
It is like
It has a very like a weird kind of like sense of humor about it or something. It feels very cheeky compared to Mario games are way more straightforward. I feel like the Wario games are like, I don't know how to describe them. It's almost like he's I don't know if you guys have seen Seven Samurai, but Mifune, the actor Mifune, Toshio Mifune, I can't remember his first name. He has this very kind of like scoundrelous quality about him, but he's very likable. He's like the likable scoundrel or something, or he's like you're not like he's a good person, but you're like, oh, I just want to like watch that dude do stuff. I feel like Wario is like the Mifune of Nintendo or something, where he's just like, you don't like him, but you're like, he's so weird and like, I don't know, there's something about him. I'm trying to figure out which one I had. It might have been 3, but
3 is the one that was on 3DS, I think.
Okay, I had it for Game Boy Pocket when I was a kid
as well.
And I never had like the little attachment that gives you the little worm light that hangs out. So on long car rides, I used to go to upstate New York twice a year, and it was like a 7-hour drive as a kid, and I would hold a little pocket flashlight in my mouth and point it at my Game Boy Pocket because we drive at night. And I have very fond memories of like my jaw getting sore playing Wario Land.
Oh my god.
Very weird memory.
It also looks like 4 is also on the so they've made a bunch of them on the 3DS as well. Apparently there's also a Virtual Boy. Wario Land, which that might be the game that the least people have played in the world.
Yeah,
I don't know. That sounds like.
Does Noclip have a Virtual Boy? Is that?
We don't know. I've never
played one.
Played one either. No, we got a bunch of retro stuff here, but I think they're always been kind of expensive. I don't really know, but I've never. Yeah, just read virtual reality. Can you pick of a less good color to look at for long periods of time?
I feel like when you take off a Virtual Boy, you know, like when you take off VR, you get a little wobbly or whatever, or it feels like you should be able to like grab things that are far away. I feel like I'd be in a world of red after taking that thing off.
Or would it do the opposite because your eye has been like undercompensating for red? So all your red cones are like fucking chilling.
Yeah.
It's like having a LUT on your face.
Yeah.
And then removing it.
Everything
and then,
turns blue.
Compensating. Yeah, everything. Yeah, the blue levels are just like through the roof.
Yeah, the daylight balance is off.
It's like whenever I go on hikes up in the mountain up here, there's all these like, you know, you're walking down like paths with grass and stuff. And then you look up and you have that like that effect of like everything's like moving from a center point.
Yeah.
You know, like and it's just like, whoa, what, am I dying? What was? It's like, oh no, it's just that thing that happens. Yeah, so Wario Land 4 was the other one. And then the other game we have here is a Hamtaro game.
Hell yeah.
Frank is apparently... Is this a new Hamtaro game? What is this?
No, so it's on Game Boy Advance. So, you know, Yeah. So every month or so or whatever, I have a new like fixation. So I've been diving into One Piece. Now the next like early 2000s anime is I've been getting into Hamtaro with a friend and going through the series. And
can you explain Hamtaro to people who do not know what Hamtaro is?
Yes. So Hamtaro is an anime series about a cute hamster named Hamtaro and all of the adventures he has in the neighborhood with his other ham friends. They like to hang out in a clubhouse. There's different types of hamsters. It's very, very cute. If it was kind of made as a response to Pokemon, and it's Little Hamsters Big Adventures. It's legitimately great. And so there's a ton of Game Boy Advance games, and the game I played, Heartbreak, because it was Valentine's Day. I wanted to stream something like kind of appropriate. The premise of the game is there's an evil hamster named Spat going around and kind of like the anti-Cupid, he's breaking hamsters' hearts. And so Hamtaro is like he's a very like brave little hamster, and he runs around trying to like fix people's hearts. So the game essentially plays like a hamster JRPG, but there's no combat. You go around and you help hamsters, and you're a new hamster because you're domesticated and you're out in the wild for the first time, and it mirrors the show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
are there humans in this world?
No. And like in the hamster show, yes, there's pet owners and stuff. In the game, you're just dealing with the hamsters. And the gameplay function is every hamster you talk to teaches you a new word, and that word is almost like doing a spell or a utility. So like you need to pick up a battery to power a toy boat, but you have to use the word like pulley, which is a hamster word for like pick up, or pushy to push something, and like so you get
so like cute versions of words.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. So so you have the ham chat dictionary, and it's so insane because you go up to something and you have a giant list. It's almost like an old like point and click adventure game, like talk to, pick up, push, and like if you do the wrong
like
thing,
Scum. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, it's like a scum. It's like a Hamtaro scum game.
Yeah.
Seriously, but because it's made for Game Boy Advance, it's like the cutest thing. Everything is super chibi, super colorful, super kawaii. And I don't know. I played it last night, but it's legitimately adorable. And it's also surprising how many people have played this game. I don't know if it's a really popular Game Boy Advance game. Hamtaro itself was syndicated on so many children's networks like Cartoon Network, Fox Kids. It was even on Toonami. So anytime you dive into like some old anime, it's fun. I like, similar to One Piece, I research all the One Piece games. It's so fun seeing, okay, what are the weird licensed games from this universe? But Hamtaro, Heartbreak. So same thing if you have a Pocket Station, or Retro Arc is available on Steam officially. So I didn't realize how easy it is to get it going. So I've been now exploring that, and but yeah, it's really cute. I really like it.
Wow,
that's awesome.
I feel like talking to Frank about video games he's played is like what it must be like for people who've never played any video game to talk about a very popular video game.
Talking to your grandson in the year 2052, and he's like,
"Yeah,
so what do you do? You talk to hamsters?
You're a ham?
You're a ham? So they have another language?
So are they pigs? These hams are they?" What the fuck?
Hamtaro always gave me weird vibes because I only saw a little bit of it as a kid, but it's kind of a similar premise to Toy Story, but there's something way more insidious about, because Toy Story, they have life and agency, and they have brains and sentience, and then kids come in and they have to just like go still or whatever. But with something about like, I don't know, maybe it's less fucked up than Toy Story, because at least they treat them like living beings when the humans come in Hamtaro. But there's something weird about them being pets with full sentience.
The show itself is very fascinating because each episode has an A and B plot. The A plot is the hamster's adventures, and then the B plot are the adult's adventures.
Yeah.
So like the pet owner Laura will go to school and like start crushing on a boy. The A plot is one of the hamsters will start crushing on a girl hamster, and at the end of the day, the pet owner is writing in their journal, and the hamster is sitting there being like, "Yeah, that happened to me and my friends." It's like damn, this is like it's really cool, and it's also strikingly similar to like Rugrats.
Yeah.
Like where it's like these hamsters are living in the adult world and are so dumb and they don't know anything, and they have like they like have like cute names for everything. Like one day there was an episode where they went to the beach, it started raining, so they're like, let's get a hambrella. And so there's things like so it's great. I really and now I can't wait to go to anime conventions and look for Hamtaro merchandise. And I don't know, it's like I'm learning new languages. I'm learning ham chat, and how you greet your friends in ham chat is you say ham ha. So I'm saying ham ha to Danny and ham ha to Jeremy.
Ham ha, Frank.
Ham ha.
Ham ha, Frank.
And ham ha to all of you.
Yes.
It's all of our ham friends out there.
Yes.
Every week, Frank is going to be like, And hey, look, no judgment, man. Live your truest self. But I feel like he's gonna have like little ham hands next week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like a ham nose. And by December, he's just gonna be fully in a suit, and we're not.
I
gonna
will
wait.
be addicted to sunflower seeds. That's what they like to collect is sunflower seeds.
That makes sense.
Sunflower seeds. That's the thing. I had to look up what the term was called for the horrible acts that people do with rodents.
Oh.
The what?
It's called gerbling.
Gerbling, that's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Gerbling.
yeah. So it's not hamsters. I was trying to see, like, in this world, is there some
Yeah.
like pretty traumatized? Jeremy's googling it now.
The reboot. No, my hands are down here. My hands are clear.
Don't do it. Safe search off,
Yeah.
man. It's just But no, those are gerbils. So that's a different cartoon.
Thank God.
But you have to go to the hentai section for that. I think. in
Yeah.
your local anime convention. Anime conventions have hentai sections? Are they all like in one
absolutely.
section?
So
Yeah.
there's some conventions where they have adult-only sections, and you have to scan
Right.
ID to get in, or you
Is
just
there
go in.
beads?
Yeah, like a movie
You know,
store.
Like a,
Oh,
yeah.
You know
A
what?
rental place.
One booth I went to had that. They had like they had it. So some conventions are a little bit more hands off or just like laid back, but they will usually
Show hands, you mean?
Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
little bit show
yeah,
hands.
Yeah, so you walk in, like, I don't know, every anime convention is different, which I like, but yeah, some of the conventions, Anime Expo is the big one that has a massive, you can see it as soon as you walk into the expo hall. It's where they host E3, the LA Convention Center. In the corner, as you see a giant 18 plus adults only banner.
Oh, cool.
And it's surrounded by black curtains, and then you go inside, and oh my God, it's like, it's an adult fair. It's awesome. And then smaller conventions, it's just like, there'll be a booth, and then there'll just be a binder that says like adults only, and then you can flip it open and start scrolling through stuff. So every booth's a little different. Some
They need the pages stuck together in the binder.
you know, I feel like everything is kept very. I feel like everything is kept very clean. I'm trying to think of any booths have done like samples or like J-List is a booth that would sell Tenga eggs and give away tissues. But I feel like everyone.
I feel like I'm just embarking. I feel like I'm a child here. What the fuck is a tanga egg?
So it's like a Tenga egg is a disposable adult product you use once and then you entertain yourself with it and then you throw it away. So
Okay.
yeah.
Can I ask one question? Do you fuck
Yes.
the egg?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the egg fuck you?
That's
or
what
do
I
you-
was
You know,
wondering. Is who's
Yeah,
there are-
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
the latter.
I don't know if
thought it
there's
was-
I don't know if there's like mechanized versions of these. Like they're meant to be very cheap and disposable, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is like more advanced versions. And also
Okay, I've
one-
googled it. Now I
Yeah.
get it.
One
Yeah.
year at Anime Expo, they banned it, but they had they had adult VR games, and so they had there was, you can find it on YouTube, but people would
These
basically
videos of lads just like thrusting.
Yes,
on,
yeah, they would have an inflatable doll. They would thrust, and then
No.
on the screen,
No.
on the screen, you would see like the anime characters. Again, this is why I love going to conventions. It's like it's crazy.
And,
It's
and you
awesome.
look at the screen. You look at the screen. He's playing like some ham
Yeah.
VR.
yeah,
game.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Fucking
So
a bunch
now-
of
yeah.
eggs.
And then
Yeah.
there's a lot of the last note on this. There's a lot of conventions where they'll sell doujinshi, which is basically adult hentai comic books, but they have it organized by like series. So obviously you'll see like Dead or Alive or stuff like that. But now I'm like, is there a Hamtaro doujinshi? There probably
Yeah.
is.
I-
but
There
there
you
you
go.
go.
I remember when Danny and I were in Tokyo, we were at like a huge media store, just like looking at comics and DVDs and stuff.
The one with the Godzilla section where they had all the crazy Godzilla statues.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it was awesome.
So there's like a million different floors, and so we were just like
Yeah.
going up a floor. Let's check out the next floor. Go up the next floor. Let's check out the next floor. So eventually we reached the adult floor, and we were both kind of like giggling, like, "Oh, this will be like silly." And then we took the step up, and it was just a bunch of like salarymen like looking at purchasing pornography, and we both looked at each other and we're like, "This is way less cool and fun than I thought. This is like very austere and sterile."
Yeah, both the American and European sensibilities could not fuck with these guys. Just on their lunch break, getting some porn. Like, all right.
There was nothing like
we're
fun
behind
or
Japan.
funny about it. It was just that it was so
No.
it was like they were picking up milk.
I felt like I was like, oh no, I'm the wrong person.
Yeah, totally.
Like this is like it's me and my who knew? Like I didn't assume that my staunchly Catholic upbringing in like a traditionalist country would have led me to not be so, I don't know, tuned into all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I do remember that. God, we had to go back to Japan. That was such a good time.
Yeah, that was
I
awesome.
still forget that time we went to that restaurant and I kind of was like, I don't know what this is, but let's order this. And it was just like, it was like black goo with tentacles coming out of it.
Oh yeah, it was like an
what I ordered.
octopus in mud or something. Was the
Yeah.
the translation? Google Translate couldn't translate anything, so there was gimlet of sand was probably the best one.
Gimlet of sand. I forgot about gimlet of sand.
classic.
Yeah, a gimlet of sand. Oh my god. Any other games, gentlemen, or documentary series?
I will say Fortnite, as of when we're recording this today, Wednesday, Fortnite put out a surprise update yesterday, and like Fortnite's been really good this current season. Like I'm always playing it, but it's not always remarkable. But this current season's pretty good. They now have Geralt from The Witcher in the game, and you can go to like The Witcher training, the Witcher castle in it. So it's funny to play as The Witcher with guns. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah,
when you said Geralt, I thought you said like Geraldo Riviera for some reason.
Oh yeah, Geralt of Rivia. I always mess it up.
Geralt of Riviera. You're right.
Yeah.
That's Is he like a crazy right-wing person now, or was he always or something?
Geraldo Rivera or Geralt?
Yeah. Or Geralt of Rivia.
I don't think so. I feel like I don't really know his political leanings. I just know his mustache.
Yeah, it's a strong stash. Yeah.
But yeah, the new I almost said the Witcher update. The new Fortnite update is legitimately cool, and they just flipped it, and there's a ton of new weapons and stuff. And then I haven't checked it out yet, but Call of Duty now has a new battle pass, so new maps, new Warzone stuff, new DMZ. So I might check that out. And then the thing
new DMZ.
The new thing I'm legitimately so excited for. This will be the day the podcast is up. If you digitally pre-order Yakuza Ishin, the new Samurai Yakuza, you can play it early. So this weekend.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah. So this weekend, I can't wait to play the new Yakuza. There is we opened talking about farming. There's a farming mini game in Yakuza. Mini games in Yakuza are whole ass video games themselves. So like, I can't wait to see what this is gonna be.
Can we do a video on Monday, next following Monday on Crew about that? That would be super good.
I would love to. Yeah, then we can talk about like as an entry point to the series and stuff like that. Like that'd be super cool.
That'd be great. Give us your like impressions or whatever.
Yeah.
Expense that shit, Frank.
Oh yeah.
It made the cut. It made the cut. All right, I think that's it. I think that's a pod. Gentlemen, should be interesting to see if we've played some video games next week. I thought I need to play. I still haven't played enough of that demo on it. What was the game, Jeremy, last week? The detective.
Shadows of Doubt.
Yeah, I gotta play Shadows of Doubt. I was gonna play it, and I ended up playing 2 hours of Kingpin: Life of Crime.
That's okay. I ended up playing 10 hours of Heroes of Might and Magic 3.
Oh my God, you did!
Yeah, I downloaded it for a potential video we're gonna do, and I was like, I just gotta like test it out. I'll just
dabble.
I'll just have one bite of this cake, and then I ate the whole cake.
Well, the demo's still up by Shadows of Doubt, so I gotta check that out. If you forgot as well and you were listening last week, go check that out. And I thought there was something else coming out. Give me a quick second.
Yeah,
Atomic Heart, is that next week?
Yeah, that's it. That's what it was. Atomic Heart, I think, is coming out fairly soon on the 21st. So that's next week. That's on Tuesday of next week.
Cool.
So presumably I'll have played a little bit of that by the time. And that's also the day that Ishin's supposed to be coming out as well.
Nice.
So that's great. So Ishin and Atomic Heart, I guess we'll have videos at least on next week, and maybe Heroes of Might and Magic 3
You never know.
Never know. I did a little poll on the Crew community tab just to see if people. I put up XCOM because I did a tweet with Joe Biden on a laptop playing the XCOM mini game where you intercept the UFOs because of all those weather balloons. I just I did XCOM Wario Land and Kingpin, and XCOM 1 is a game, the original one. UFO Defense, it was known over here. It was called Enemy Unknown. It was called in Europe, which ended up being what they called the sort of the newer ones worldwide. But yeah, that's coming out. There's actually a bunch next week. Blood Bowl 3 and Company of Heroes 3 are coming out next week as well. And is next week PlayStation VR 2 week?
I don't know.
I think it might be, because there's a couple of them here. Horizon Call of the Mountain is there.
Oh.
And I do have one of those coming in, so we might have to do a video on that as well. So there might be a bunch.
Nice.
Coming
yeah,
out.
Feb 22 is what it says here.
It does for
PSVR 2, yeah, on CNET.
Okay.
If they can be trusted.
Right. Yeah, Sony with their lies. Don't believe their lies.
Also, Geraldo Rivera, staunch Republican, friend of Donald Trump. Looked it up.
Yeah, thought so.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Thought so. He's not getting in Fortnite.
The mustache.
He's only
the mustache tricked me.
Only woke people like Geralt of
Geralt
Rivia.
of Rivia. Yeah.
Who else is in Fortnite? Before we go,
Who isn't in Fortnite?
That's what. Let's do that. Yeah.
I use Chun-Li. I mean, all the Street Fighter characters are in there. Resident Evil, Doomslayer is in there. LeBron James. I also have Zendaya from Spider-Man, but when I play as Zendaya, it just looks like Rue from Euphoria. So that's one of my main characters in Fortnite.
Is there a skin to get her to be the in Dune?
No,
The
yes,
Dune
there is.
one?
The Dune Dune Zendaya's in there. Dune Timothy Chalamet's in there.
Nice.
Basically,
What?
every
Are you joking?
No, I'm serious. There is Dune
I can't tell
skins
anymore.
in Fortnite. I'm not kidding.
Is Ronald
I am not
McDonald
kidding.
in there?
Ronald McDonald is not in there. There are clown skins. I do have a Juggalo.
How are you gonna have
girl.
Zendaya and not Grimace?
I don't know.
How does okay? So this is. I'm trying to find like a. So would these be outfits or would these be skins? Or what
Skins
would
is
you
what they're
call
called.
them?
Yes. Yeah.
Skins. Okay, I'm on a page and this is such a. This is the one of those websites where you scroll to the bottom and then
Yes.
it keeps going.
Yep.
It's that forever.
Oh my god.
Yep.
So I'm actually gonna list it to you guys and we can all pick a couple of different ones. I'm putting it in the chat
Okay.
here on Riverside. We can all.
Oh,
I'll go
man.
first with 5 ones for me which stand out. This is absolutely. I did not realize quite how many people. So Rick from Rick and Morty is in here. Presumably with the current voice. Did you see he's getting Royland's out of that as well?
Yep.
They're gonna
yep.
replace
They're going to revoice them or something?
Yep.
It's wild. I didn't expect all that stuff to happen. It's absolutely wild. Who else is in here?
Mr. Beast.
Is Mr.
Mr.
Beast?
Beast
Of
Yes,
course.
is
Mr.
there.
Beast is in there.
And wearing like a big
Will-
bucket hat.
Bad Boys. Will Smith is in there. His character Mike Lowry's in there. There's
Wait, his character's called Mike
Lowry.
Lowry.
Mike Lowry. Yeah.
The most Irish name I've ever heard.
From Bad Boys.
Actually,
Single,
like a lot of like African American like actors and rapper and I guess people have like names like super Irish, like Sean. There's more Seans in the black community in America than there is in any other community. It's like even in the Irish American community, I feel like I'd have to look up why that is because like there's a bunch of really rare Irish surnames that I only see in that community. I'm like, what?
Huh.
There's probably some fucked up reason actually now that I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it. Why that's the
There
case.
always is.
But anyway, I digress. Who else
They
we
got
got?
Tom Holland, Nathan Drake, not Nathan Drake
Yep.
from the video games.
Yes, that's a weird one.
That's
That
weird.
is very
Yeah.
That
strange.
is weird.
Yeah, every single Marvel character's in there. So like Ghost Rider, Blade, all the X-Men, like all of that is always in there. I have Ariana
There's just
Grande.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just like like looks
Mm-hmm.
as well. Like here are 5 kind of like cybernetic ninjas, or
Yeah.
here's like 3 skins that are I don't know if they're from a TV show, but they're kind of just like fire dragon people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you're picking when you like have to pick an avatar on your console, and it's just like a bunch of random
Yes.
images.
Yeah,
yes.
Like, it's like that.
Yeah, when
you
your
know?
username is like green jalopy 47.
Yes, it's like auto-generated a look for you or something.
Oh, they got Tom Holland,
Yeah.
Spider-Man too. They just have the Tom Holland version of all of these characters.
Yep.
It's very strange.
Do they have just have
Oh,
regular
The,
Tom
cra-
Holland?
the
Way
rarest
better.
skin in the game. The rarest skin in the game is Travis Scott, which they pulled out of the Astroworld's disaster. But Travis Scott was in the game.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
But you can play as him as well.
So
not-
if
and
if
he's-
you bought the skin, like, because it was available for like a year, and then before people had casualties at his concert. So like, if you own that skin, and you can still play as him, but they don't sell it
Oh,
anymore.
sorry. Now I get what you're saying. I thought you were talking about the Travis Scott
In-world concert?
fucking in-world.
yeah.
Yes, not
Oh.
the one where the people
Oh, no,
died. I was
no.
like,
Oh,
No,
no.
no.
yeah, but can you
Yeah, yeah.
Because and then you said when people died at it, I was like,
Oh yeah, not
people in the
in-game,
game
out-game.
died.
No, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why?
Oh my
I don't know.
God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You can play as my favorite skin I've just found here is Sergeant Green Clover,
Nice.
which is a lady dressed up as a leprechaun.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, they'll do
So-
St. Patrick's Day events. Yeah.
That's great to know that we're
Aloy.
representing. Black Adam's in here.
Yep, of course.
Black Adam's in there. Aloy from
Aloy's
Horizon
in there?
is in there. They got Ripley and the Xenomorph from Alien. Sarah Connor is in there from
Wait, this
Terminator.
the fucking alien is from
Yeah,
Alien,
you can
is in
straight up
it?
play as the Xenomorph. Yeah.
How does it walk?
It
Like,
walks like an
is
alien.
it huge?
It's
It just-
everything is kind of scaled the same, so they don't mess with hitbox different
Yeah.
hitboxes. But yeah, it's and then every character can do all the emotes. So you can do Gangnam Style, you can do the Macarena. It's like again, Fortnite. I would be happy to do a crew video for Fortnite. Like I love Fortnite. Like no cap.
Isaac Clarke.
Yes, from Dead
Clarkson.
Space is in
Oh my
there.
God.
It's the best game ever. It's the funniest game ever. So yeah.
All right, we need one more. We need a chaser. We need like, here's the weirdest one.
Dang. Yeah,
that's
shoot.
like the no, just where we're gonna get it. There's a bunch. God, this is like
Some of these feel
Yeah,
so
I mean-
made up because I don't know what they're from. Also, I went by Mike Lowry. I was like, oh, it's Will Smith, and I moused over and it said Mike Lowry.
Yeah, right. So they won't say the actor's name; they'll say their like the IP, the character.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Marcus Phoenix.
I saw
is in
Marcus
here.
Phoenix. He looks
Yes.
old too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
here's a
super
good
Master
one.
Chief
They
is in
have
there.
they have the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, the monster
Yes.
from Stranger Things.
They have Gummy Fish Stick, which is a
What?
character made of gum.
Yep.
Chris Redfield's in it, and so is Jill Valentine. And you're right, Chani from Dune, and Paul. It just says Paul Atreides.
Yes.
Which is very funny. Mike Lowry, I see Mike Lowry.
Oh,
now.
John Wick is in the game.
Of course, that one makes a lot of sense. Actually,
John Wick. Yeah,
Yep.
there's a guy called Dude.
I saw that.
It's just a guy who's kind of looks ripped.
I've seen a lot of people named
Who's Jay Balvin? That's that.
Jay Balvin's
is he a Latin
I think
American
a Latin American
pop
rap
singer?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
He's got
thought it
rainbow
looked
hair.
like Mike Shinoda, and I was
Yes.
like, "Oh, that makes complete sense. That Mike
Yeah.
Shinoda's in here. Is Mike Shinoda in here?
No, but there is Metallica emote, so you can do Master of Puppets on guitar, which makes me think they should
Okay.
add Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted's not in there. Keanu Reeves and
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like Linkin Park needs to be in Fortnite.
Yeah.
That seems to be.
Oh,
Hell,
they
put
have-
Chester in. Why
They
not?
have Walking Dead characters, so Michonne and then Norman Reedus, whatever his character is in the game. So yeah,
but not Death Stranding version of him.
no, not
Just-
yet. Hopefully with the sequel coming out.
Ant-Man here,
there's a-
Chun-Li and Ryu.
There's a character called the Brat that's just a hot dog with sunglasses.
What about who's
Yeah, I saw
Beef Boss? There's a hamburger-headed man named Beef Boss.
That sounds right. Just a hamburger guy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they just do silly stuff. That usually will come out around 4th of July. They'll put that in the item shop or Memorial Day. Like
Okay.
every day the item shop updates at 5 p.m. Pacific. So it's like Christmas every day in Fortnite. It really is great. And then you can get
Kratos?
gifted. Yep, Kratos is in there.
I feel like
There's a bunch of referees, like football
I
referees.
saw that.
like
Yeah.
NFL referees. That's,
I was thinking maybe like the Burger King would be good in here. You know, he's
that'd be
the
good.
Sneak,
with the
Sneak
big
King
head.
version.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Sneak King. And then you get Ronald McDonald.
Yeah,
in.
exactly. I think they're missing out
Yeah,
on a lot
that's
of
a Super Bowl ad.
brand sponsors, brand mascots. I feel like
Yeah, like
the Hamburglar.
like
Michelin,
Papa John.
the Michelin Man, the big tire guy.
Oh,
Yep, there you
he's in
go.
the Geraldo Riviera problem.
There you
I
go.
think.
Yeah, he's a staunch Republican.
Yeah,
He's a
exactly.
real racist.
They
So
don't get in.
Yeah.
Let them in. People like to shoot them. Then it's fine.
That's so
you know, it's
true.
like you can. Okay, I still want one more. I still feel like there's one here. We can. And if you're done with the podcast, that's fine. We'll be back next week. Don't worry. But there's one. There's got to be one.
Who's
There's one-
Jonesy? Frank, who's Jonesy?
Jonesy is he's like the Fortnite protagonist. He shows up in every cutscene. He's like, there's Agent Jonesy. He gives you missions on the island. He's just the generic like white guy of Fortnite.
Okay,
like,
because
he's blonde
there
hair.
are
Yeah.
He's
so
like Steve in Minecraft.
Yeah, yes,
okay.
yes, that's Jonesy. That's Jonesy.
there are so many versions
Frank-
of Jonesy here. I had to just know.
There's
Oh, they got Ninja.
Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, Ninja's in here. They have the Universal monster. So there's the Universal Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, and then I looked. There is Rick Grimes from Walking Dead is in there too.
Nice.
There is
Do they?
yeah.
Do they have the? Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. You go ahead.
There's
I was gonna say something, then I saw a lady dressed up as a cactus, and my fucking brain just completely
there is a
evacuated.
There is a like Spanish soap opera or sitcom. I'm not sure, but it's called El Chapulín, and so it's just a very famous like Spanish sitcom character with a CH on them. I'm not familiar, but I think Latin American communities are stoked on it. But so again, there's
Marshmallows
international
here.
stuff. Yeah.
Of course, gotta have
Yeah, I
marshmallow.
like that. I like the idea that there's like people. Who would you like if you could put anyone in here? I would put Laszlo from what we do in the shadows.
I
in
want
it.
Claude
I think
Speed
that
from Grand Theft Auto 3. Like all
Oh,
the Grand
that's
Theft Auto
good.
protagonists.
That's
Tommy
actually good.
Vercetti,
They look-
CJ.
Yeah, they look like this already
Yes,
a little bit.
Yep.
You know,
I want.
Kinda, yeah.
I want Reynolds Woodcock from Phantom Thread. The main
Yes,
character.
yes.
From
oh my God,
Yes.
Daniel Day Lewis.
Yes.
I want Werner Herzog.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If Werner
he'd be
Herzog
good.
was a character in this game, I would play Fortnite. That's what it'll take.
That'd be
balls
great.
in your court,
Yeah.
epic.
Yeah.
I watched Grizzly Man last week for the first time in a while.
Oh, it's so
Oh,
good.
The scene with
And
the
I
voice recorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently that's been leaked online since. I haven't.
Oh,
listened to
really?
it, but Yeah. So obviously she did not follow his destroy this day.
You must never.
Do not listen. I tweeted a picture of it and said, I've had a really stressful day, so I'm going to watch a nature documentary. And a lot of people were like very kindly not getting that it was a
it.
joke.
Oh, no.
And we're like, oh no, don't.
You must
do it."
never watch this film.
You must never watch this film. Oh my god. Okay, I think that's it. I can't think of anyone else. The lady who's dressed up as a cactus, who made my brain come out of my ass, is called Prickly Patroller, and I don't really know what to think. She's dressed up as a cactus.
I do want Sydney Sweeney.
She's kind of hot though.
Sydney
Sweeney?
Sweeney, which should be in it. Yeah, preferably from Euphoria, but whatever film. Or Mia Goth
Sweeney.
would be great from Infinity Pool, or Pearl from, that'd be good too.
Yeah, Mia Goth. I feel like just is Mia Goth in
She's the
everything.
best.
She's just like
Yep.
a force of weird nature. All right, there you go. That's Fortnite. I've never felt so out of touch. Thank you all for listening to the Noclip podcast. Really appreciate it. Patreon.com/Noclip if you'd like to get our bonus podcasts and other things like behind the scenes videos and patron shows where we tell you about all the redacted we're working on right now. And our Discord as well, where we share videos of puppets we've had made for documentaries where the interviewee did not turn on their webcam. The puppet is en route from Canada. It looks amazing, and I can't wait to share more. Frank, what are you doing with the rest of your day? Ham?
Yeah, so I'll probably be watching Hamtaro. New South Park is out on Wednesdays, which is good. Fortnite. Yeah, lots of good stuff. Got my comics, and again, I'm so excited for Yakuza this Friday. I'm very excited.
Hell yeah. Jeremy?
I'm probably chilling. I've been editing for 3 weeks on Redacted and on my Psychonauts video. I've been drawing a lot. I had a good idea for a little comic on the drive home today, where I saw one of those signs that says "Drive like your kids live here," and I was thinking it's like a 2-panel comic, and in the first one, a guy's driving normal speed and he sees that sign, and then the second panel is him going like 150 miles an hour, and his kids are like, "You're awesome, Dad."
Is it the sign in the town you live in that has the huge cat around it?
No, but that sounds awesome.
So in Sebastopol there is because I was up there last week on the weekend just briefly with my wife and kid, and there's like a slow down one, but they've made a huge cat. It's an artsy town, right? So but they made a huge like cat around it, so it's way more eye catching. So
I haven't seen that.
That is also appropriate because Double Fine is named after the Double Fine Zone, which is on the highway that runs into San Francisco from here in Marin and Sonoma County. It was a double fine zone, that road was, and that's why they called it Double
It's a good
Fine,
name.
So. Full circle. That's episode 103 of the podcast. Have great weeks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.